Hi, today I am going to talk about eschatology. First, let me mention that my pastor recently gave an awesome sermon in which he says eschatology, which is study of the end times, is interesting and it's good to study it and be interested in it, but that is not what we need to focus on. We need to focus on Jesus and sharing the good news about Jesus with other people, because that's what really matters. Who cares about eschatology if you don't know that? So there's sucky things in the world and you're going to be in them. Whether you're a Christian or not, you're going to be in them. But so I am studying eschatology, and partly this is because there are some little known but getting much more known views other than the dispensationalist tribulation view, and I think that we should discuss them and their merits and, for lack of a better word, non-merits. So I do not know Greek, but I study a lot of the words in different chapters in the Greek, the actual Greek and the King James Version. And I usually use my version that I have, which is the New American Standard Bible. So there are in the New Testament, when Jesus is alive and he is talking about the end times, like when he's going to leave and then when he's going to coming back, that's the end. So when he's talking about that, he speaks about it in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And one of the main things that we get is that people say two things. Is there going to be a tribulation, which I won't go into at this time, and is it going to be in the future? Or if there's a tribulation, it's going to be a tribulation, like a specific event. It is going to be in the future. And this idea comes from Daniel, a mix of Daniel and Revelation, and maybe like Isaiah, and maybe Matthew, Mark, and Luke. So is there going to be a tribulation? We are going to address that really quickly. So the chapter that I am reading today is Mark chapter 13. And so Jesus says, do you see these buildings? They're all going to be torn down. And then he said, and he's telling this to 4 of his disciples, see to it that no one misleads you. Many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and will mislead many. There will be wars, rumors of wars. Don't be frightened. This is not the end. Nation will rise up against nation, which we think is like super far countries, but nation, Jesus generally was talking about nation as in the known world at that time. Like other people other than Jews were nations, other nations, but it was in the known world. So like Romans and Egyptians and anyone that wasn't a Jew. So nation against nation. And kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes. There will be famines. These are the beginning only of birth pangs. But I'm paraphrasing a little bit, obviously. Be on guard. You'll have to defend what you know when you're in front of courts and stuff, but really you don't have to defend it. I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you the words. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child, and children against their parents. You'll be hated by everyone, but the one who endures till the end, he will be saved. But when you see the abomination of desolation standing where it should not be, let the reader understand. Those words are in the Bible. In Daniel, he talks about this abomination of desolation. He also talks about it. In 70 AD, there was an abomination. Jesus talks in Matthew chapter 23. So just before this, he's talking to the Pharisees and he's saying, you're an evil generation. And he's saying, because you're an evil generation and because you killed prophets and you're going to kill me, then he said, your city is going to be left to you desolate. Now, in Matthew chapter 24 and in Daniel previously and Mark chapter 13 and Luke something or another 21, I believe, he says, there's going to be this abomination of desolation standing where he should not be. In 70 AD, the Roman armies came and besieged Jerusalem, and they were going to attack it. But then all of a sudden, they didn't attack it. They just disappeared. And the Christian Jews, the Messianic Jews, they were like, okay, Jesus told us, which I'll explain soon, Jesus told us that this was going to happen, that someone was going to surround, that an army was going to surround us, and we should run to the mountains if we can, or when we can. And they were like, well, the army's now gone, so this is a good moment, because we saw an army around, so this is a good moment to run to the hill. So they did. And every single Christian, which was every Christian in Jerusalem, ran to the hills of, I think it was called Pella. And the Roman armies came back. I don't know why I think there is a reason, but I don't know why they left in the first place. But they came back and they besieged it, and then they broke in and they killed a whole bunch of the Jews. And then they went into the temple, and they were in the temple and they were desecrating the temple. And the general at the time, whose name I cannot remember, was it Vespasian? Anyway, he said, don't destroy it. While he was not around, some circumstances arose that they did. They destroyed it and set it on fire and destroyed it and ransacked it and took everything. And I don't know, it was just terrible. It was a desecration, and not one stone was left upon another. We heard Jesus say that that was going to happen. So not one stone was left upon another. So what Jesus, to go back to, how did he give this warning to them? He said, whenever you see the abomination of desolation in this standing where it shouldn't be, then you have to take off, flee to the mountains. The one who is on the housetop, don't go out and get your stuff. But woe to those who are pregnant and nursing, because it's going to be a time of tribulation, such has not occurred since the beginning of the creation which God created until now, and never will. Now, obviously, like the Holocaust, more people died and it was terrible. But they were thrown from their temple. They were thrown from the country. They were dispersed. They were put into different countries. And a whole bunch of them were killed. And it was the worst thing ever. So, because their temple was everything to them. Unless the Lord had shortened those days, no life would have been saved. But for the sake of the elect, whom he chose, he shortened the days. And then if anyone says to you, behold, here is the Christ, or there he is, don't believe him. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and will show signs and wonders in order to lead astray if possible, the elect. But take heed, behold, I have told you everything in advance. And in Matthew, it says that there's going to be a trumpet sound, and then his angels are going to gather up the elect and take them away. Sort of. That's what it makes it sound like in at least the New International Standard Bible. But I studied that in German, in Greek. So we're going to begin there. With the elect. The elect does mean chosen, but it means chosen out of a group of people, like to perform a special task, or it doesn't mean chosen to come out of that group of people. It just means chosen to do something within that group of people. Those are the elect. And the word chosen, or the word take in Matthew, where it says they will be gathered together, it does not mean that they're going to be taken out. Like when some people talk about, we're going to take the Christians out, there's going to be a rapture, their clothes are going to disappear, there's going to be people left behind, like the movies you see, the Left Behind movies and whatever. I'm not going to go into great depth, but you probably know what I'm talking about. So that, or you may have, even if you're not a Christian, you've probably heard of the Left Behind series of books and movies, and or just the fact that somebody's going to go up and meet Jesus in the sky, and their clothes, everything will be gone and left behind, their clothes and everything, but they're going to go. Well, the Bible does not say that. He says he's going to gather them together, not take them out, but gather them together, and then they're going to go and do something. And what is that something except for their purpose? And what is their purpose other than to tell people about Jesus? The people that they are still with, the non-Christians on the earth. Not that they've been taken, the non-Christians aren't going to be in heaven, or if heaven's a place up in the sky, they're not going to be there, but they're with the non-Christians. So they are on earth. So I wanted to start with that. Now I'm going to go into that future thing. You know how they're going, okay, so everything, the bad is going to happen in the future. Like the bad thing is going to happen is the people that believe in pre-tribulation rapture, there's going to be, before the tribulation starts, the Christians are all going to get raptured, and then the tribulation is going to start. And the tribulation, this is kind of based on Daniel, is going to last for 7 years, in which time all hell breaks loose. That's not considering all the hell that is in the past or now broken loose. That isn't, but it's going to be like way worse than that, is what they say. It's going to be way worse than that. So let's look at when Jesus is talking to them. Oh, and he says in the rest of Mark 13, after you'll be hated and everything and run to the hills when you see the abomination, then he says this generation is going to see all of this happen before the end comes. Now, this generation, a lot of people that want the tribulation that has been, some people talk about being an event, and in the future, and the rapture in the future is for sure that there is a rapture. They talk about that being future, and then they say this generation is actually referring to the generation that sees Jesus, or that sees all these bad things happen. Well, the generation that saw all these bad things happen were the Christians, the Christian Jews, a long time ago, in 70 AD, or right around there, 66 AD at that time approximately. And so when they see nation rise against nation and all that, the pre-tribulation people, or the mid-trib, or anything that believes in trib, or pre-wrath, they're like, okay, well, the nation rising against nation, that's our sign. No, Jesus is talking to this generation. And to prove that this generation doesn't refer to the generation in the 2,000 years after Jesus that sees nations rising against nations and wars and rumors of wars, if you go into the Greek, looking up the word this, because it's quite a specific word, usually, not always, but usually when you're referring to this chair, you're talking about the one that is right here in front of you. You're not talking about a chair that someone's going to have in 10,000 years. Or this generally, almost always means currently. Like whatever this certain thing is being referred to is current, is happening right now. So the word for this in Greek is auto or auton, or I forget if it's auton, but anyway, auto, and it means this. I'm close to correct, and please comment if you know I'm close to correct, that this is associated with the word auto, which is a word that is singular and something that is happening like right now. Actually, it doesn't say. So singular is in when you're talking to this generation, you're talking to a single generation. You're not talking to a single generation and then a bunch of other generations, because that wouldn't be singular, that would be plural. And the word auto is singular unless specified otherwise. And nowhere in the Bible, when Jesus is talking about this generation is going to happen in Mark 13, Matthew 24, or Luke 21, is he speaking to many generations? He's only speaking to one generation. He was talking to one generation before, one chapter before he spoke to his disciples in Matthew. He referred to them as this generation. So there is no reason to believe that now he's speaking to the disciples in Matthew chapter 24 or Mark 13 or Luke 21, and he's saying this generation actually isn't just you guys. It is people also 2,000 years in the future. So I'm going to deal with one more Greek word today. And the word is used in many places, but I'm focusing on Luke chapter 21 when they say this word. And the word that I am focusing on is all, or all of, all something, all. So Luke chapter 21, verse 35. In the King James Version, it says, "For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth." It shall come upon all of them that dwell on the face of the earth. Okay, that's all. The New International Standard Bible for Luke chapter 21, verse 35 says, "For it will come upon," that's talking about that time of tribulation. "For it will come upon all those who dwell on the face of all the earth." In the Greek, awkward how they phrase it, but these are just the exact words that were that they got for "as a snare shall it come on all that dwell on the face of the whole earth" in the King James Version. So the words that are in Greek are "as snare, for it will come upon unto all the being seated unto face of all of the of earth." The all is pantos or panto, or a derivative of that, something with those letters in it, most of those letters in it. And all is all that are in that generation. If you put everything together, he's speaking to that generation. It's going to come upon all that are on the face of the earth. And if it's at that generation, it's going to be all at that generation, in that generation, that are seated on the face of the known world. If it's going to happen to all people in this generation, then it's implying two things. It's implying that the Christians are not going to be raptured. It's saying that this generation is them, so you're going to have to change what you think because the evidence says.